as you're cruising around here. So, I'm super keen to learn more about, Greybeard and a bit about how it started and stuff like that. So I get some history of it. So, if you have any kind of like story about how the company started or, where its roots are, really, that'd be a great place to start out with.
Yeah, man. It was started by sort of our founders really at the time, which was Art Bloom and his two boys, Ken and Jay Bloom. And the whole family has sort of always been Renaissance men. They like their own liquor, and they learned to make their own just out of passion. And they felt the same way about cannabis, and so they started under ACMPR license, growing their own, and they wanted to build out a medical LP. And so through amazing connections, through I think a hunting trip, Art was able to meet Tyson Kramer, and Tyson had been growing in Humboldt, California for God, I think 15 years. And Tyson came up to consult on the Thrive build out. And so Tyson came up, and the long and short is that he fell in love, and now he's got two beautiful kids, and probably much to his chagrin at this point, he's stuck with us. So Tyson's been taking care of that side of stuff. And then when Art and Ken and Jay were looking for a CEO for the company, they were able to find Jeff Huber. And Jeff has 2 engineering degrees, 2 master's degrees. Nobody's really quite sure why. But at the end of the day, he's a man that wears Carhartts and Sanooks and has a gigantic brain, and one of the kindest fellows around. Art found him because he grew up playing hockey with his boys. And at the age of 12, Jeff started his own IT company, and started working on IT stuff for Art. So Art had always been close with Jeff, and they sort of had the conversation. And Jeff had just brought a biopolymer company, to, I think, from a garage with about 4 people to a multi-billion-dollar company. And he was looking for the next thing to do, and Art brought Jeff on. And so he's one of the most hands-on CEOs in the world. And so altogether, those guys were able to build out that 10,000 square foot facility we have today. They did it in 9 weeks with commissioning, which is absolutely insane for anybody who's ever built an LP before. They had people sitting there over Christmas. They had families. It was so beautiful being from sort of a farming community and a rural community. Everybody was there to sort of have a part. And it truly was a barn raising. I mean, Jay and Ken and their wives and kids and Muck and everybody out there with paintbrushes painting the floors. Over Christmas, they had electricians actually sleeping on a cot in the facility just to get it done in time for the attestation. And they made it happen. And so they got up this beautiful 10,000 square foot facility that Tyson had designed. And then to sort of skip forward on that, I guess from a Greybeard perspective, I had come onto the company. I'd met Art, and I was president of a group of medical clinics previous, and we had a passion for medical cannabis. And I think at the time there was all this capital markets talk and all these other things going on, and we were new LP, and we, quite honestly, I don't know if we even knew better. We thought that you have to pay some fancy ad agency a whole bunch of money, and you go into Toronto and then you give them the money, and they give you the name of your business and tell you where you're going to sit in the sort of cannabis landscape. And I think that's kind of the way it was for a lot of people 3 years ago. And so we went down and we did that, and we sat in front of this agency, and they said, are you guys ready for your name? And we're like, yeah, give it to us. They're like, here it is, Whisper. And we were just like, no, that doesn't really work. And they're like, here's another one. It's Swim, but it's spelled funny. And we were just like, oh God, like I don't know.
Was it with a Z?
It was a Y.
Oh, there you go. Also, I feel like Z's classic cannabis, throw a Z on it and try and make it cooler. But guys, just wanted to introduce Matt, who joined the line as well. So Justin just wanted to let you know that he was on, and Bubs, continue away.
Yeah. Hey,
yeah,
Matt.
Sweet.
keep going, Bubs. This story is awesome.
Have you pulled yourself out of the bomb-proof room?
Just for a minute.
Yeah. All right, perfect. So we so that was sort of the other name they gave us, and so we left that meeting and had a really hard look as a team and as a company, realizing that those weren't things that really reflected us, and it didn't reflect the Bloom family, and it didn't reflect us as people, and the people that had been curated by the team. And so we sort of sat and said, guys, like, I think we all came to this consensus. It's like, guys, we've just got to stop with the noise and the bullshit. Like, let's focus on products that we believe in, that we're proud of, and that we want to partake in. And at the end of the day, if we fail, then at least we fail by our own devices, but we've done everything we possibly could, and that's the legacy we leave. We've just got to stop listening to the noise. And so we were very fortunate to have been able to bring on Sung Kang as a SVP of marketing. Sung had just actually left Vivo, and I'd known him through the industry, and we were blessed to bring him on. And we found a great friend of ours named Luke Kinmond. And Luke had actually won Creative Director of the Year at the Notable Awards the year previous. He's done a bunch of work for Drake and a whole bunch of huge brands like Kit Kat, Pepsi, a whole bunch of sports brands. And we kind of asked Luke, we said, is there any way you can help us out? And Luke was like, I don't know whether I can take time away. Let me ask my company. And his company said, yeah, you can freelance for those guys, because we sort of all had a relationship. And so Luke said he was on, and then we had to tell Luke that we don't really have any money because we paid somebody way too much. And Luke still came on board and helped us really find out what we were and who we were. And that's how Greybeard came about. He took us through some absolutely brilliant branding exercises, and spent a lot of time with us up at the farm to sort of really understand our culture. And from that is where Greybeard came. And it's funny, everybody looks at the horrible COVID beards that a bunch of us have right now, and they're like, oh, Greybeard, I get it. But it actually has nothing to do with the beard. The Greybeard are the women and men of this world who have a passion for craft. It's like, you're always going to do it the right way, even if it's a long way. You're never going to cut corners. And I think where it fits so beautifully with cannabis is that, you're on this quest for infinite wisdom, and you're willing to impart that wisdom on anyone that's willing to listen. But you're not going to waste your time with people that fucking won't. And that's who the Greybeards are of this world. And sort of Luke had brought us to this point with Sung working on these exercises, the two of them. And that's how we came up with Greybeard. And I mean, all of that to go back and say, in that meeting, the third name they gave us was Being, and we had paid them an exorbitant amount of money, so we had to roll with something. And we actually did. We did enjoy the name Being. And we originally all sort of came from medical backgrounds. Tyson, with him being out in Humboldt and growing under his medical licenses, myself as president of Group of Medical Clinics, Art's passion for medical. And so we knew we wanted to have some sort of a wellness brand, and Being really fit for that. So we shelved it, and we started on Greybeard. And we were blessed 2 years ago to be one of the only 8 licenses in Canada that was given an outdoor grow license. And so Tyson, and again, this team at Thrive, I think it was 41 days from the day that we submitted and broke ground to the day that we actually got our permit and had everything fenced up with plants in the ground. And from that, and I remember this moment, and I'm so glad that Matt's on the phone, because I remember this moment, and it was Tyson had gotten all the plants in the ground, and we were running 28-gallon pots. We retrofitted sea cans, acid injection units, potassium silicate injectors, trucking in water. We've run fertigation lines, valve groups all the way down. And you see all these plants in, and it's a whole team effort. Everybody from family to, all the boys' wives, Art's wife, Muck, the kids, Jeff, our CEO, like all of our executive down there helping out on this. And I just look back at the field and I look at Tyson, and it's like he had a second to take a breath. And then you just see him go, how the fuck am I going to get this off? And that's where we sort of got into, where we knew that we wanted to do extracts, and we knew we'd be okay at extracts, but that's not good enough for us. And it's not what a Greybeard would do. And so we searched East Coast, we searched West Coast. We had friends come up from California, where I spent a lot of time, and we tried to find the best. And we were so blessed to find Matt, who we have on the phone here today, but Matt Pridham out of Moncton, New Brunswick. And at the time, and Matt was running one of the highest respected premium sort of legacy concentrate brands, and was looking to do the switchover, and as we like to say, come to the dark side. And we were so fortunate that Matt agreed to join our company after spending time up there. And we were like, do you want to move your family over to Jarvis, Ontario? And as a decision, the family said yes. So his family is his wife and his 2 dogs, but they hopped in and moved down, and Matt's been locking himself in a bomb-proof room for 12 to 16 hours a day ever since. One thing I like to say about Matt is that he was winning races with a Ford Taurus, and we bought him a Ferrari, and he is just absolutely crushing it out there right now. And his passion for craft is the exact same passion that carries through all of our veins, who sort of work with Thrive. None of us are in this to make a gajillion dollars. We're in this to be able to provide for our families. And we're a small company. At the end of the day, we got 77 families to feed every morning when we get up. And the beautiful thing about that is every one of those people just has that passion for craft running through their veins. You have to, or else you definitely wouldn't be working with us.
Nice. So just a question for Matt then. How, if you can, just let me know what it was like going from like working in a legacy market environment to going to like a regulated legal market.
For sure. And I told Robin yesterday I'm the worst person for filtering the shit that comes out of my mouth. So at some point, Robin may jump in and be like, "That's off the record. That's off the record."
Yeah. No problem at all, guys. I got Adobe Premiere. I can assure you, if anything, comes out, there's no problem at all to get rid of it. That's no worries.
Cool. Thank you.
To start with, the honestly, the biggest thing was just the culture shock of moving from kind of an unregulated space to the 4-inch thick binder of regulations and red tape and all of these rules about what you can do. And even just it's the little things. The regulations are enormous, absolutely, and much of it for very good reason. But it's the little things like being able to, pour something off into 2 jars, or just little things that you just take for granted as you do it by yourself. And then you get into a regulated space, you're like, oh, right, I didn't put in my SOP that I could split this into 2 jars. So now suddenly I'm not allowed to pour it into 2 jars, So it's those kinds of things that have caught me the most off guard. Having to run the kinds of spoons I can buy past my QA guy, and that sort of stuff. It's funny, but at the same time, again, it's for very good reason. There are a lot of players back in the day that did a lot of questionable stuff, and it was behind closed doors, and nobody ever got to see it, and so nobody cared. But it's nice to move into a space where I'm enabled to make the very, very best products that I possibly can. And I know that when I do that, they will be safe for consumption in every way, shape, or form. And that's pretty cool. And honestly, I guess the biggest change has been just a lot less stress and a lot better sleep.
Nice. It seems almost like that's counter to what Bubs just described, with you working 12 to 6 hours locked inside of a room, but
I guess it's a trade-off of one kind of stress for another. But honestly, if you took this all away from me tomorrow, I would crawl into a depressive state, I'm sure of it. I love what I'm doing right now. I've always loved creating extracts and doing high-level things with cannabis. Cannabis has interested me since before I'm even willing to admit. So I love to do this, and certainly there are trying days. There are days where you're like, man, I would love to go home right now. But honestly, I think about Bubs out west driving around for 3 or 4 months at a time straight. He didn't get to come home. He didn't get to see his family for Christmas. He didn't, get to do any of the things that we got to do while we were over here. And so, he calls me and he's like, listen, I know you guys are working your ass off, so know that I'm working my ass off out here too. But it kind of goes the other way too, that, I see him out there, bed and breakfasts and coffee on the road and a different bed every night. And I'm like, well, if you can stick that out, then I can stick out a couple of 16-hour days and make sure that this next product launches when we need or what have you, right?
Nice.
I love you.
Oh,
I love you too, Bubs.
nice. So I'm also just curious, and again, in terms of like just products in general, are you able to now create stuff very similar to what you were creating previously? In terms of extracts and products like that. Like, I mean,
there's a nice kind of it's a bit of a Venn diagram, and it's kind of hilarious that I chose that word, but you've got these two worlds intersecting, and then there's kind of these fringe things on either side. So I can make shatter, I can make crumble, I can make batter. Terp slush was something that I kind of put my own spin on. You could call it HTFSE if you like, but for the most part, and I absolutely despise the term full spectrum, so that's one of the reasons why we didn't go with HTFSE. But typically all of those kinds of things are much more of a granular, sugar crystal or larger type of a consistency. And because of the regulations and the need for the homogeneity, something along those lines.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
the homogeneousness of the requirement from Health Canada. I took it a little bit further, kind of elevated a little bit further, so that every single dab that you take is going to be identical in THC and terpenes. There are a few things that we can't do, and that's something that we've run into recently. One of which being putting, for example, diamonds in sauce.
Yep.
Under Health Canada's interpretation, these are two separate products, and under our current regulations, you may not put two different kinds of products in the same package together. So we're getting creative with that, and we have a solution, and we will release diamonds in sauce in a creative way. They just won't be in the same jar together, unfortunately, for now, and until we can help steer those directions the way they need to go in order to compete honestly with the black market.
I mean, I guess I don't want to talk about other brands on this call, but I mean, I don't know what else to say.
In the room right now is what you're saying.
It's a great comment, and it's very true, and we're very mindful of it. I mean, we love talking about other brands, and we love upping other brands. Like, you'll never hear a shit talk, because at the end of the day, we need people this category is so small that we need everybody that steps into this category to come with fire. Because if you open a door and you get punched in the face, you're probably not going to open that door again. Yep. And so if somebody tries something and it's just swaggy shit, then they might not go back to buying a regulated concentrate. And so that sort of screws us in the end. So we're on the sidelines cheering for people to put out great product. Yeah. And what really it comes down to, and I think where your question was going, is that we wake up every morning so blessed to not be going to jail for what we're doing. Yeah. And being a small company, we have those 77 families to feed every single day. And so we will not do anything to ever jeopardize that, ever, because we've come so far to be able to have this life. Tyson said something in the summer. He said, it's so nice just not sketching out when a helicopter flies over, and there's all of those feelings. And I drove $250,000 worth of dope down to another LP with all the paperwork in our QA. And I was just not worried about a thing. And so for us, we may hold ourselves, and you'll see with our products in the way that we produce them, we hold ourselves to a different standard. And it's a standard above what we're required to do, because we cannot afford to misstep. And so with some of the products that are in market, they're great and they're going for it. And we really hope that they're pushing those boundaries and that we can get there. But there is a chance that if they got audited, that product could be called back, and that would be detrimental to a small company like ours. And so we're just not willing to ever take those risks. And so we'll be super creative, and you're going to see some super funny shit that we've sort of put together, but we're never going to take those risks.
That's a super response, and I really appreciate where you're coming from with that, and how how to answer that question in that way, because it's like a really, we're talking about stuff that's like never really been talked about. You know, there's the legal market concentrates, the definition of what a concentrate is, the definition of what that substance is. Like, people don't really talk about this, but I think that's cool that you guys are interpreting that way. But I think in the same sense, that also can also help you guys innovate your products in different directions than what sort of has been done previously. So, I mean,
Absolutely. I mean, I one of the figures of speech that I love, and I say it probably at least once a month to my team in the lab. Great innovations and really cool findings in the scientific world are almost never marked with the phrase "Eureka." It's almost always, that's odd.
yeah,
And that's what's happening here is, like you said, we're having to get creative and we're having to do interesting things. And along the way, something punches you in the face and you're like, that shouldn't, that, I don't, and then look what I found. And so that it is one of the very cool things about what we get to do, and having to be creative. You're going to find these new little inroads, and you might even find some new textures or a whole new concentrate category that you didn't even know existed. You just kind of stumbled over it.
yeah. And I was just wondering, because you mentioned, so I was curious personally about the word terp slush, because I mean, now that you mentioned it was HTFSE, that makes a lot more sense. But you know, when I saw it, I call it wax just because it's a crumbly, you know, substance that's got, you know, THCA crystals kind of in a sandy format. But yeah, so how did you, if you can talk a little bit about how you came to that, and you know, how you named it, and if there's like a real differentiation in the process that caused that, or if it was just the fact that you wanted to avoid the full spectrum, which I'm on board with myself.
We're gonna be good friends, Justin.
Nice.
So we're the terp slush that we package on our packaging day resembles a 7-Eleven slushie. It is very, very liquidy. It is very runny. It has a noticeable granular texture to it, but it's a very fine texture. And so, you know, trying to avoid the whole full spectrum extract thing, and you know, that's kind of a question for another thing, but I'm dying to throw my opinion out there, but we'll save it for another interview. Trying to avoid that, I was looking for something that, you know, we're limited by what you can call it as far as appealing to children and those kinds of things. And so you have to be careful about how you go there. And so I started looking around the industry in the United States and you know, throughout Canada. Nobody has really ever given this texture a name. You know, originally the extractioneers called it FS, you know, but that was kind of their own thing. Aside from that, it doesn't have its own little cute short name. Nobody's ever come up with that. And so I started kind of having little sessions with friends of mine in the legacy market. I was kind of creating this texture a couple of months before I came on board with Thrive in preparation for the legacy market or for the legal market. And I just kept kind of teasing people. What does this feel like? What does it look like? What, you know, give me a descriptor word. And it constantly came back as terpy, 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 terpy. And one night my wife dug into it and she's like, this is really slushy. And it was just an immediate click of like, oh wow, terp slush. It's perfect. It describes what it is. You know immediately in your mind's eye what we're talking about. It, you know, doesn't take us into the child area anywhere. And it's something unique to us and you know, to Thrive. And so that's kind of where I went with that. We're currently working on some solutions to kind of improve the quality that people are seeing at the end user level. We've navigated through some issues and we're now on a fantastic track. And these next few batches coming out are just absolutely crazy. I actually just had a batch come back from testing that was so terpy, I had to purge it more than I wanted to in order to pull some extra terps off. So we're now making concentrates that are too good, which is a pretty rad situation to be in.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, you know, now that you mention it, because that is it's a great point that I think a lot of people who smoke extracts in general, like, always want to chase more terps. But if you've ever had an extract with too much terps in it, It just it coats your throat really. I just like you notice it. It's harsher. And anyways, and I was just curious, like what threshold is that? Where do you find that? I guess it would depend and vary heavily on the input, whatever product is getting processed, but.
Yeah, and somewhat to do with the terpene profile as well. Anything with like a D-limonene heavy terpene profile is going to take your breath away if it's very high levels of terpenes. Whereas something that's more like myrcene or beta-caryophyllene, those heavier type terps, you can get away with a little bit more before it physically takes your breath away. For me, I'm shooting somewhere between, ideally 7 to 15%. 15 is my max cap. For me, I'm more shooting for like 9.5, 10% is kind of my median range right there. And we'll see. This is an interesting part of the industry where we have a limited amount of data, and I look forward to more data coming out on these kinds of things, and we'll fall in line depending on where they tell us to go. That said, there are really good research papers out there for terpenes in the workplace. D-limonene is a good one. It's used as a solvent. Turpentine, so-called because it is a terpene. All of these things have been used in workplaces for decades and decades, and NEOSH and all of these people have set very reasonable regulations for how much you can inhale. So, I've kind of taken those documents as my guidance for what we're trying to do, but as they update those, of course, so will our guidance.
Nice. That's awesome. Definitely thanks for a lot of that context on the details, the nitty gritty. I don't always get to jump into that kind of depth of that, but just curious, jumping back onto the sort of like entering the market as one of the first. I'm pretty sure you guys were like the first in Ontario, at least, for putting the extracts onto the market with like the 2.0. You guys are very early in that. If you could share any of that experience in getting those like first batches of products to the market, I'm sure that, outside of, business as usual for you guys being crazy, I'd love to hear if we got any stories about that.
I mean, absolutely. It was very, very major accomplishments. I believe our first shipment of like, consumer products that went out, I think that was July or August is when we sent our first shipment out. And we had been going like full ham, 14 hours a day from January until then. We had to finish our full extraction room. We had to commission all of that, bring it online, figure out all of the supplier details and all the issues that are in there. And then we got into, just making these awesome extracts and figuring out how to get that workflow going. So those were all like very cool, interesting things. But like you said, as we got to that point where you're like, oh, wow, it's on a pallet now. And then the pallet's being picked up and put on a truck. And a week from now, we're going to be able to buy that on the market. And it was super, super exciting and a little bit nerve wracking too. I mean, like you said, we were some of the first live resin in Ontario. I'm pretty positive of that. And some of the first legit extracts in Ontario. With that comes putting yourself out there and putting yourself on the line and the Reddit monster that is inevitably out there waiting to eat you alive if you misstep, right?
Stay off that website.
Reddit's been very, very kind to us, and it is a wonderful platform. I mean, I've been on Reddit for 12 or 13 years. Matt's been on there for a long time, and it's a beautiful way to just take a look at what people are saying about you, and you can't just you have to take it with a grain of salt at the same time as taking it very seriously as to what people are doing and trying to read in between the lines on it. Because some people are just going to troll. Some people are never actually going to purchase out of the regulated market, and they're just going on there just to write whatever they want to. But there is a lot of truth behind what's on there. And for us, we're constantly looking at it. And I remember the nervousness, the tension of waiting, and like Matt was doing the same on his end. And it's like, we're waiting to get lit up. And like, it's going to happen. And nobody else on the team is really on Reddit at this point. So it's really Matt and I are the only guys that are on it. And then we're telling the other guys, we're like, hey guys, like we're checking Reddit. So then you have guys that have never been on Reddit that are watching somebody say something horrible, like, oh, you're way too overpriced, or that wasn't terpy. And then they're like, I'm going to write them back. And I'm like, no. So you're explaining Reddit, but we haven't gotten lit up. And the only thing that Reddit has done for us is really, I think, make us better, because we're able to take a look at that and see what people are saying and say, okay, well, how do we fix that? And for me, I can bring it up to Matt and say, Matt, did you read this post? He's like, yeah, I saw that, but I think in the next batch, like, I can do this. And so it is really it's a helpful tool that you're scared shitless of.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, if you treat it with the right amount of respect, and you treat that sort of entire community with respect, and just watch what's happening, you can really better your business.
Yep. Yeah, and it's interesting because, like, for me, I reviewed the it was the SLK Terp Slush on my site, and so I have a section on my site dedicated to just Reddit posts related to that product. And the cool thing with your product, it wasn't just the fact that there was people reviewing it. There was like a guy that did like a beautifully edited video of himself doing a dab and like scooping it all nice. And I was like, wow, like, you know, like it comes to that point. And I thought that was really cool, was that, you know, if you put a product out that's that good, people will make the content for you. Like, you know, you will have these cool things that people are doing creatively, you know, video reviews, neat videos, high quality photography, all this kind of stuff for free, and you get to use it and promote it and build your company with it. And that's like, you know, that's the reward you get if you treat that community with respect, right? So just kind of a, you know, an interesting context, and really something that I didn't notice before until I reviewed your product, and I was like looking through all the posts on all the subreddits, just seeing if there was anything, because, you know, for me, like a lot of the stuff that I've written about, like, it's always pretty generally well received. Like some of the early products that I did back in December, like, you know, it's kind of like, it wasn't very good. And then you could just go on Reddit and watch that product be like completely obliterated by anybody who had like any semblance of understanding of, you know, concentrates. So, but yeah, no, that's kind of a fun one. And, you know, it's nice to see that you guys are out there doing it, you know. The other, you know, if there's, I don't know, I should be one to give you advice, but, you know, if you guys ever got bored, you want to do more social media stuff, Twitter's like the happening place right now. Like, I'm growing my whole, you know, my website and everything has been almost entirely powered by the Twitter cannabis community, which is both heavy, you know, very heavily medical, but also, you know, the rec community is great as well. So, you know, just that's, yeah.
Absolutely.
I would actually
go ahead, Bubs.
Oh, sorry. I'll just say quick. I would actually love to grab some insight off you on Twitter, if I may. I know Matt's involved in it and Tyson's involved.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just starting to get back into it. I was definitely heavily involved in a previous life and then moved away from it for a long time. So I'm going to hit you up, Justin, if that's all right, just to get some insight as to who to follow and what sites.
Yeah, for sure. There's a ton of cool people on the community. It's exactly, and it also heavily overlaps with Reddit. So if you guys are looking at Reddit, you'll notice content gets posted from Twitter to Reddit, Reddit to Twitter, etc. So, and this is really just obviously due to the fact that like stuff like Instagram and Facebook, it's just banned on. So like when I built my stuff, I was like, I ain't playing in these communities. I have no interest in just, you know, putting something out there for only it to be like a risk to the company and get banned from using it. So, but yeah, no worries on that, Bubs. Happy to help you out there. So. Yeah, I guess, you know, we're out in the Reddit sphere over here, but I'm going to bring it back into sort of the concentrate side of things here, because I want to know, and you know, the internet wants to know. Actually, I got questions from people on Twitter, but I want to know more about the next batch of products that you guys are launching, and if you could tell me anything more about any of the stuff that's coming up soon, because, you know, like I'm excited. So, you know.
What can I say, Robin?
I was just gonna jump in, Justin. When do you plan on releasing this?
So I'm pretty slow with these, so probably in about a week or so, maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks. What if you guys want, I can put this out whenever, at whatever date you'd like. I'm not in a rush here, so.
I mean, we can definitely go with the new drops.
Yeah, do it.
And I think Matt, you can then allude to some other things that you have going on, but I don't think we can go into specifics on it. But and I'll let Matt speak to these because they're the best. I'll just say what they are. But we have decided for a couple of reasons to get some new stuff out there. And the first one is we're doing a 0.5 gram of the terp slush, and we're going to do that with the Afghani drifter. There hasn't really been a gassy profile in concentrates to date in the regulated market. And even within our own profiles, we don't have that offering yet. So we're going to put that out, and I'll let Matt speak more about the profile, but I'll say the reason we went with a 0.5
My next
is
question.
is because if if our mission as an industry is to eradicate the illicit market, or at least like divert from legacy, we've got to put out fire and we've got to price it appropriately. And anybody coming from legacy, if we're doing our job, people are going to have their own ritual, their own banger, their own torch, their own nectar collector, terpene, whatever it is. But being in 500 stores in the past 4 months, I'm learning that there's so many people that are becoming connoisseurs because they're being taught by these bud tenders. It's the person that shows up for a Wana gummy, and then 2 weeks later they come in and they're like, I'm going to get a pre-roll and share it with everybody over the weekend. And then, a month later they're buying a 3.5 and rolling their own joints, and they're like, what's next? And so we want to be able to partake in that. And a $70 gram of product that's an expensive choice for somebody who isn't sure whether they're going to like it and they're just getting into it. And so in a way we said, let's go with this 0.5 so that we can get those new people into it, and let's show them and almost destigmatize the banger and the torch a little bit and get them into using things like Yokan pens or Evolves or whatever they have out there, the utilitarians. Like, let's get them into that and show them that it's not that intimidating, and let them have all of that like truest representation of the plant and have that experience and that high. And so we went with the 0.5 for that, so that stores could actually bundle a pen like an Evolve, say, and a 0.5 gram and be out the door for less than $90 tax in. So then that's an experience. They have the rig, and like, who knows, 6 months later, they might be buying $5,000 pieces of glass, like that's sort of the way we took a look at that. The other product that we're doing is, obviously it made sense for us to put out an activated live resin pen as well too, with the Afghani drifter. And then the last one that we have are the most gorgeous diamonds you have ever seen. And they're just, you would want to put them in a ring and get down on a knee and propose. And you can read letters through a piece of paper through these things. And Matt is just a master when it comes to the artistry. And we wanted to put those out because that to us is a true black market offering. And if anything is going to divert from legacy, hopefully this will be it. There's no bullshit. It's THCA, and they were testing at 104%, like, which we know is impossible. But it just means that the lab didn't have anything pure enough to test Matt's diamonds again. So we actually have to put out a 0.75 gram because we couldn't put out a 1 gram because it would have been over the testing limits. And so I'll let Matt speak to the actual products themselves, because he is rightfully so proud of these things. And I think it's going to be a big game changer in the market.
And just before you jump in there, Matt Bubs, I gotta say your rationalization on the 0.5 grams is exactly is I complain about the 0.5 grams on my site all the time because I keep getting awesome product that's available only in 0.5 grams, and I need the gram option of it. It doesn't, for me, that's where I come from. But what you mentioned is also like a really important part of what I'm trying to do is like get that new person. This is a new market. There's so many new people here that are going to be converted into this next stage of their kind of cannabis discovery world. That it's just great to hear that from a producer, that you guys are thinking that way, and that that you're putting that out. But yeah, please, Matt, tell me more about these diamonds and products. I mean,
for sure. To start with, the Afghani Drifter Terp Slush, probably my favorite terp slush to date. It, like you said, it's got a gassy, funky, kind of deep terp kind of profile, with a hint of like lime, kind of margarita on the nose, which is so unique. Citrus is not hard to find in cannabis, but it's always lemon or it's always oranges. To find a lime terpene in there is actually quite rare. That really excited me. And then we were able to test these products recently in our R&D program, and on the palate, it's very gassy, it's very dank, it's very, those kinds of, the things that we currently don't offer in the terp slush side of things is exactly what the Afghani Drifter is, and we couldn't be more stoked about that. Obviously we had to do a pen. There are still so many people that love vape pens, and of course they're incredibly convenient. Even if you are a dapper, you're going to the ski hill, or you want to go for a run, or you want to go throw a ball at the park with your friend. It's easy. You don't got to worry about wind or anything like that. But obviously, the thing that excites me the most is the diamonds that we just put out.
Yeah.
They are beautiful washed diamonds. They're they're, at the moment you can go in the marketplace and see 3 or 4 other offerings that are diamonds. But these are diamond and sauce offerings. They're full of terps. They're covered in terps. They're a very yellow or orange color. The diamonds we'll be releasing are just pure THCA diamonds. They are very clear. They are very large. The average jar has like 3 or 4 rocks in it for 0.75. And there are a few jars out there with just 1 rock in them for
No
a full
way.
0.75. And there was I've got a picture of one of the biggest ones I pulled out was 3.5 grams, or as I like to say, 17.5 carats, because it is of course a diamond.
Yep.
So we're super excited about that, and like Bubba said, this is true Greybeard products. These are the kinds of things that we bring from the black market, from the legacy market. These are the things that run through our blood, and obviously we have to have certain offerings for the legal industry, but things like this are what excited us to bring that old kind of thing in and resonate with old heads who people have been in this industry forever, and they're seeing these new legal market products and they're like, that's cool.
Yep.
I remember those 3 years ago, and we're slowly catching up, and unfortunately we have to educate all of Canada and bring all of them forward with us. And so we're starting a little ways back for some of us that are a little bit more advanced.
Mm-hmm.
This product is quite advanced on that side.
Yeah.
And fantastic concentrate product, fantastic for a banger, fantastic for a small pen. But what I love about the diamonds is it goes all the way across. They break down easily. So if you're the kind of person that loves a bong hoot and you just can't smoke a big enough bong hoot, it just doesn't get you where you want to be, diamonds are the perfect bowl topper that will take you to that next level. And you'll regret doing it because you'll never be able to get that high again. But these are the things that I think a lot of people are actually looking for. And so we're super excited. We're going to parlay that into another release for 710, but we're launching these for 420.
Nice.
And trying to have something very interesting on the market to hit one of these important dates that we also love.
Nice. I'm just curious, in terms of like creating diamonds, like how much time does that process add to the total time creation? Because I'm assuming that I haven't looked out, I know that you put it on a hot plate and it gets, you grow the diamonds slowly over time, but like how much time does it take to grow a 3.5 gram diamond? Because curious.
So there's 2 answers to this, and this is where my perfectionism comes into play. I can crash out diamonds fairly quickly. If we don't care what size they are and we don't really care what they look like, I could probably create a 50-50 mix of sauce and diamonds in a few days.
Okay.
The thing about those is they will be very white. They will not be clear. They won't actually be one rock. It will look like a bunch of smaller pieces stuck together. If you want one big diamond, then you have to do it slow, and you have to slowly create that precipitated crystalline structure. And I've seen a scanning electron microscope show the progression of a crystal growing, and it looks just like a 3D printer. One little bit here and one little bit here, and it goes all the way around and just keeps adding to the structure. And so you have to be patient with that. You have to allow that to happen at its own rate. In this case, for the 0.75 to 1 gram diamonds, 2 to 3 weeks. For a 3.5 gram diamond, you're well into a couple of months to create something that beautiful. And it requires a fair bit of interaction, along the way. A lot of people assume, oh, you just set it and forget it. And unfortunately, and again, if you don't care what your diamonds look like in the end, absolutely set it on a shelf, forget about it for a couple of weeks, and you're fine. If you're trying to grow diamonds that look like a magnifying glass when you hold it over text on a piece of paper, it's a whole other level of perfectionism. Yeah. But it's something that we love to do, that I love to do. My whole crew, I'm super blessed. I have such a great crew in the lab, and they support me in ways that I can't even articulate here. But honestly, all the cool shit that I do, I couldn't do without them. So I have to bring them up.
Nice. And so, again, if it's too much detail, but like, what kind of starter product are you using? Is it just like Afghani drifter, or is this like, just material that you can homogeneously create diamonds with?
So we're creating diamonds with all of the strains that we're running. They're all live resin diamonds, and live resin makes better diamonds than cured product does always. There's more THCA in your live product versus something that hangs to dry. And so you just get a better diamond progression. And so, like I said, we're doing it for all of our strains. The thing about a washed diamond, where we're physically washing them in ethanol and then purging off all of the residual solvents, is that they're pretty agnostic. So, I could take an Afghani drifter diamond and give it to you, and I could take a Kish diamond and give it to you, and you probably won't be able to tell the difference. And that's how washed they are. That's how far I take them and desiccate them. Because I really want this to be a strain agnostic release. And so that's where it kind of parlays into the diamonds and sauce kind of thing that we will eventually get to. And that's where we'll bring that strain specific side of things back into it. But for now, it's mostly an agnostic product.
Nice. Yeah. And that's kind of what I was assuming it was as well. I mean, that's good. And actually, this is just a question from a Twitter user. He asked, are you guys going to ever jump into the solventless side of things?
Absolutely. So in my previous life, my partner spent a great deal of time on solventless, several years. Robin, how much should I say here? Can I talk about?
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
Can I talk about winning awards in the black market, or do we leave that for another day?
You can say exactly that, but no more specific.
Perfect.
Good.
So yeah, my partner and I won a couple of awards for our products, and personal medical products that we kind of put up against others. And that kind of told us we're on the right track. So yes, absolutely. I have brought my partner on board. He is here. He is waiting patiently to release the rosin and all the other good stuff that will come with that. And we're actively doing R&D on all of those sides of things. Solventless is definitely something that we understand is a big part of the concentrate community, and a lot of people that are into solventless aren't really into solvent-based extracts, and that's absolutely their prerogative. And I get that. I understand where that comes from, and so there's no judgment there at all. We want to offer the products that both sides of that community want to be able to use, and we want to do it at the most premium top level that we possibly can, and we will.
Nice. Yeah, and that's awesome. It's definitely interesting to see, and it's cool that you guys have gone the solvent route, because I mean, I don't know, I've always found that you can do more stuff with solvent-based extracts, and there's just more stuff that can be created from them, and I quite like that side of things. But if it's any consideration, I just had some Good Buds, a company out in BC here. I'm sure you guys have heard of them. They just released a live rosin, and it's the first live rosin that, has that nice creamy, looks beautiful, has a nice little dollop. I'm sure at one point or another, it was completely translucent when they dipped it, right? It was just beautiful. So, it's nice to hear that you guys will be jumping into those kind of spaces as well, because there just needs to be more competition on really all fronts on the concentrate market. So, whatever you guys can dip your toes into is something I'm sure at this point, people who've tried your product will be happy to support. So,
I hope so. And we look forward to getting into the solventless side of things. Yeah, like I said, we've got a couple of really cool ideas for that side of things that nobody's really done quite yet. Yeah, we're excited that it's coming.
You can keep it at that. Nice. Well, I mean, honestly, guys, those are kind of the questions I had for you. You guys did an awesome job of really answering a lot of stuff that I haven't had the opportunity to talk about in one of these calls before, but also being able to hear your passions and hearing what you guys are doing on that side just gives me a lot of confidence that there'll be some cool shit coming out from your end soon. And yeah, I mean, if you guys
Yeah.
got anything else from me, just, feel free to shout it out or do it.
Well, one thing that we are working on is sort of putting together this thing, and it's going to be called First Friday, and it sort of comes from my time when I used to live in LA, and every First Friday we'd open up our storefront and just have conversations with people,
Mhm.
and all the stores on the street would do it. And so we're going to do that online in the cannabis community, and not necessarily bud tender specific, but we're going to do sort of coffee with Greybeard first Friday mornings of the month. And it's not a sales thing for us to sit and talk about our product. It's really what I've learned from this journey so far is that you can't paint. Everybody tries to paint a province with a brush and say, this is for you, Ontario, or this is for you, BC. And what I've learned is you can't paint a street corner with a brush. Everybody's needs are different, and everybody has different problems. But I'm seeing some of the same problems in BC that I'm seeing in Ontario from a store perspective. And I thought, how do we bring that together? And so what I'm doing is we're starting this sort of coffee talk with Greybeard. Matt's going to be the first person on it. And it's going to open up the ability for people just to ask those questions about concentrates, and not ours. Like, we love talking about our stuff all day, but we'd way rather talk about other stuff. Matt loves it anytime that he can sit and talk to people about concentrates. So we want to be able to offer that to the bud tenders, to be able to ask questions and have those open conversations. And it could be something from as basic as like, what's the difference between resin and rosin? Because somebody doesn't know. And, I think that we've done this before on smaller scale, and it really brings together a community, and it brings together crowdsourced conversation and answers. And one of the things that I'm noticing right now is going between stores, I'm having stores that are having a problem, and I'm like, oh, you should have seen what these guys in BC did in the Coots. And so what we can do is sort of open that up so that we have these stores, and hopefully having an open conversation and being able to solve the issues and building that community, because we're all inside of it now. And the only way we're going to be able to change it is from the inside. And to do that, we've all got to help each other. And so we're just going to bring a bunch of rad, like-minded people together to just sit once a month and have coffee and just talk about weed and everything else that comes up. And we would love to have you on that to just come and chat as well.
Yeah, for sure. And you guys, you actually have testament to sort of how there is a need for information. Really, just yesterday I posted on my Twitter, I've been working for a while to try to build a guide to concentrates and vaping and everything. And so I made sort of a joke tweet, but it was also real. It's like, I'm going to make a guide to understand the guides to concentrates, and a way to make a decision for when you decide to make a decision about trying concentrates. And like literally 2 stores just unironically just replied right away. They were like, that would be great. We can't wait to see it. And so I'm like, well, I guess I got to do this now. So there's an absolute need for what that is. So I'm more than happy to jump on that call and to help you guys out in any way that I can, just to get that kind of conversation going, because I think there is that lack of that information. And it that's, you guys can make the greatest product on the entire planet. You could make the dankest, sell it for such a good price, but if the customers don't, if a customer comes to the store and they says, hey, I'm curious about this Greybeard stuff, and it's like, how much is a vape? And then they don't recommend something like an Evolve Plus, but they recommend a Puffco Peak or whatever. And it's like, yeah, it's for $4.99 or $2.99. I don't know, it's $2.99, $3.99. It's pretty expensive for one. But like that's their introduction to concentrates. They'll just pass on it forever. I mean, what's the point of investing all that money into something if it's gonna, and maybe the sales rep doesn't know how cheap a banger is, right? Like, they've never done a dab before, so they only know the Puffco Peeps, really popular for vaping concentrates. They don't understand bangers, and it's like, yeah. So anyways, I could talk about this stuff for a while, because I've spent a lot of time experiencing it and really discovering that need for the consumer education side of things. So.
Absolutely. And I think, to further Bubba's point, we've always said that we aren't the only Greybeards, right? Like, we consider anybody who's willing to do what they do well. They don't cut corners, and they don't take shortcuts, and they are passionate about what they do. You're a Greybeard. If that description fits you, then you're a Greybeard. And to us, that means that there are actually many other Greybeards in this industry that are releasing fantastic products and trying to get the right information to the consumers. And so it behooves us to all work together, right? My brother likes to say, high tides float all ships, and it's absolutely true. And so we need to bring this tide in. We need to float everybody up that is creating fire, And there's no reason why we can't all kind of succeed at this together.
We all have those conversations, like from an industry point of view, or at least we do. You know, we surround ourselves and walk hand in hand with these LPs that we think sort of share the same ethos and are putting out great products. Like the guys from Quest, we love. And you know, the other day, example, I haven't told anybody this, but I got a phone call from Matt and Val from Shatterizer yesterday while I was driving, and they had me in tears. And I was so happy for them because they were like, Bubs, we wanted to call you personally and just tell you, like, we finally got a deal. We're going to be putting out Shatter. And I was just so touched. And they're like, we just felt like we owed it to you. And we wanted to know, like, we love you and we love Greybeard and we love your products. And I'm like, guys, I'm just so happy and so fucking proud of you that, like, they have transitioned from that legacy world and they've fought really hard to get it done. And now they're on the other side and they're going to have a product in market. Like, you know, that's what this is all about. It's creating that community. And I love it when stuff like that happens. And we just want to see rad people succeed.
Nice. Yeah. And that's really the reason why, you know, I'm recording this video right now is, you know, hopefully people watch this video, they see some of the interesting stuff that we're doing, they take the time to educate themselves, they get into this. I mean, I don't know. I think it's just a cool hobby. There's a lot of stuff you can learn about concentrates. It's so neat to understand the process behind them and how, you know, it's created. And so for me, I think you guys are both doing a stellar job of pushing that forward and getting more people interested in this kind of stuff. So, you know, I guess we can kind of conclude it here because, yeah, I got to say thanks so much for your time. And like I said, you guys, if got any shout outs or anything like that, just, you know, feel free to.
Just shout out to you, man. Thank you so much for giving us the time and the ability to just sit and chat and talk about everything that we absolutely love.
Yeah, man. I'm looking forward to hearing about the coffee, you know, the coffee sessions basically. So please shoot me an email.